Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be talking about the AaronFox extension. Obviously, he signed that 4 year, $229 million deal, and there's no team or player option on that last deal. So it's interesting to see that the Spurs are saying, hey, you're going to be here. We trust you until, that 2029, 2030 year. Now, what does this mean for the San Antonio Spurs? This means you got exactly what you wanted, that all-star to pair with, Victor Wembanyama, because you couldn't wait for, Stephon Castle, Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. You couldn't wait for these guys to, take a leap. You already waited long enough, and you can't wait with a guy like Victor Wembanyama, a generational type of talent. This guy only comes around, once every, 20, 30 years, and we may never ever see someone at his size and his skill level again. And you just cannot wait for these guys because you want to be quote unquote loyal. Now, I'm super high on Stephon Castle in my opinion. Yes, I'm biased because I am a Spurs fan, but I do see glimpses of, an SGA. He has great size. His defensive instincts are there already in his rookie year. Obviously, his big flaw is his 3 point, shot. He shot 28%. He did average, 14.7 points a game. 3.7 rebounds, 4.1 assists. He did shoot 42% from the field, and these numbers are not mind blowing, rookie of the year numbers like we saw, with Victor Wembanyama, basically average, 20 and 10 and almost 4 blocks a game. Now, that doesn't mean that, Stephon Castle didn't deserve to be rookie of the year because he did. His defensive motor and his instincts were there from game one. This guy played 81 games. I think he would have played 82 games, but, he had a minor tweak in his ankle, and the Spurs, obviously being cautious, and there was nothing to lose because they weren't going to make the playoff or even the playing tournament. But this guy had to guard, the best point guards in, the NBA in the world. He had to guard Curry, he had to guard Booker, he had to guard all these all-star point guards and shooting guards. And the Spurs said, "Hey, we know your offensive skills are not there yet, but we believe that they're gonna be. But right now, we know your defensive, skills are there, and you're gonna make an impact in these late game situations. And we trust you, we believe in you." And it showed because the Spurs let him play through, mistakes and error, and they said, "Hey, this is what you have to do different. This is how you're gonna do it." And he had veterans like CP3, Harrison Barnes, even Keldon Johnson, like all these guys that have been in the league for a long time. He's still learning from them. And you had a guy like Dylan Harper in any other draft class, this guy would have been number one, especially last year's draft class. He would have went number one easily. And Dylan Harper reminds me of a left-handed, Cade Cunningham, maybe even a James Harden type player. He has great ball handling. I really like his playmaking too. Obviously, he didn't really do it as much at Rutgers just because that team really wasn't a serious, March Madness playing tournament team, because it was just him and Ace Bailey, and it's kind of, who gets to shoot this time. And with the, Spurs, everyone's gonna to play through, Victor Wembanyama. He's clearly the number one option. De'Aaron Fox is clearly the number two option, getting paid that. So who's gonna be that number three option? Is it gonna be, Stephon Castle? Is it gonna be Dylan Harper? I believe that Dylan Harper is gonna come off the bench because it just doesn't make sense to have De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, maybe Harrison Barnes, and then Victor Wembanyama. I think the floor spacing is not that great, especially with, Stephon Castle not shooting the best from three, around 28%. I believe, Darren Fox shot around, 32% last year, 34%. And then at Rutgers, Dylan Harper did not shoot the ball well at all from three. So what does this mean with Dylan Harper's future with this De'Aaron Fox extension? I would say right now it doesn't mean anything. I think it's just, hey, for the future until 2030, De'Aaron Fox is going to be our guy. But hey, 2 years from now, if Dylan Harper takes this leap, or if Stephon Castle takes this leap, hey, we could move on from De'Aaron Fox if we attach maybe two Atlanta first round picks, or maybe one of San Antonio's first round pick, and maybe a throw-in player for a more big man that's needed. And I think this is the best situation for Dylan Harper because you have an established veteran, De'Aaron Fox, who's an all-star, top 10 point guard, novice, max player in this league. If you look at what CP3 did to, Stephon Castle and even Devin Booker, and everywhere he pretty much went, he mentors these young guards and helps them, become that better version and that max player that they could be. And if you're De'Aaron Fox, you're the biggest winner out of all these players because you got exactly what you wanted. You wanted out of Sacramento because they fired your head coach. You wanted to go play in San Antonio with Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Castle. You got that. You wanted that extension, and you got exactly. And a lot of people saying that De'Aaron Fox is going to be the most overplayed player in the NBA now, and he's not worth none of that money. And what people don't understand is the longer you hold these contract negotiations, and I feel like this is with, any sport, especially an established all-star or, all NBA team play, is that you're gonna have to pay more at the end. And the Spurs said, "Hey, we believe in you. We kind of really didn't give up too much to get you. So, paying you is not really our issue. It's just about more of a fit with Dylan Harper." I know the Spurs did not think they were going to get the number two and get a chance to draft a guy like Dylan Harper, but De'Aaron Fox is no scrub. This guy is an all star, and I believe that he is going to be an all star again this year. With a guy like Victor Wembanyama, he's going to draw so much attention, and De'Aaron Fox is just so quick and so fast, and he is established a veteran. He knows this game. He's been around since 2017. This guy is a veteran of vets, and Victor Wembanyama has not played with, an all-star player, De'Aaron Fox. I know he played, a Hall of Famer, Chris Paul, past his prime, and was this there to, mentor these young players on the roster. And obviously he moved on from, the Spurs this year, signing with the Clippers. And there's other guys on this roster to look forward to. Devin Vassell, yes, he did have a down year last year. He only averaged, 16 points a game, about 4 rebounds, 2.9 assists, but he did shoot around 36% from three. And that's what you really care about, because Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox are going to get, double teamed. They're going to get bodies thrown, and you're going to be open a majority of the time. And can you hit these shots consistent? And I just feel a big thing. His issue is his injury prone history, because he's been hurt these past 2 seasons, and it really hasn't mattered because the Spurs have been. But now that you're kind of in that, hey, we're going to try to make a play-in or playoff push, and you're either with us or you're going to have to be on that trade block, because we can't wait with the guy Victor Wembanyama, especially now that you're paying, De'Aaron Fox $229 million. But you also have a guy like Jeremy Sohan on your roster, and his biggest question again is his 3 point, spacing. Can he hit these consistent 34 to even 36% from three when he's left open? He's going to be left open because all these guys are going to draw so much attention, and the teams are going to say, we'll live with Jeremy Sohan making 3 to 4 threes a game, but we don't, Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox getting that groove early in the ball game. But I do believe that, Jeremy Sohan is that Swiss Army knife that can guard, 1 through 4, and sometimes he could play a small ball, 5, if Victor Wembanyama's, not in the game. But you are gonna have to sign and extend Jeremy Sohan. Now he's eligible next season for, a contract extension. How much is he worth? I don't believe that Jeremy Sohan is a $120 million player. I don't really believe he's a $100 million player yet. Can he be his next contract extension if he develops that 3 point shot making and maybe, increases the free throw into the high 80s or even the mid 80s? Yes, I think he can. But as of right now, I do believe he's around that 70 to maybe $90 million, just because I really like his fit most teams, but especially with the Spurs, because he really, thrives on that defensive, presence, and kind of like that, pass on defense that can get in, opponents' heads. If someone, kind of messes with Vic or, De'Aaron Fox or even, Dylan Harper, he's willing to, hey, push a player and, take that technical foul and say, hey, you're not doing that on this team. I'm the reason why. He's kind of like, Dylan Brooks type player that Patrick Beverly and every team needs. And you also have Keldon Johnson, who his contract was front loaded. So his contract is going down, from, 25, 26 million to around 20 or 18 million now. And I really like Keldon Johnson off the bench. And if he's not willing to, consistently say, I'm coming off the bench and, thriving in that role, look to move on from him. Or if his role was not, fitting well with the Spurs, because I know defensively, he's not really looking to lock anyone up, and he's not really a great playmaker. He's more of a, downhill player. You don't really need that, but if he's willing to, come off the bench and he kind of mentor, Dylan Harper, I would, keep him, because, he's been with you since 2019. His contract is not the worst, and he's an established veteran. And a guy that could replace Keldon Johnson if they decide to move on is Carter Bryan, who you just drafted with the 14 pick, who I'm super high on. Now, Carter Bryan could be a rotation player right now for the Spurs, but I don't see him playing more than, 14 to 15 minutes max, just because his biggest issue for a lot of Spurs player is his 3 point spacing. And obviously we saw him, lock up Cooper Flag in the summer league. In that, game, he was kind of a defensive pest. And a lot of people were, posting and talking about, hey, how did this guy drop to 14, to the Spurs? And dang, the Spurs must feel good right now, because you get Dylan Harper, and now you have a guy, Carter Bryan, who knows his role right now is to play, lockdown defense and, be a hustle player. And I believe that he is going to do that. And I think we're going to look back and say, how did Carter Bryant drop to 14 to the San Antonio Spurs? I'm curious to what y'all think with this whole, De'Aaron Fox contract extension. How does this benefit the Spurs, or if this is going to be, a contract we look back, a season, 2 seasons from now and say, why did you do that? But let me know in the comments below. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching.